Postponing health usually happens when you have to reprioritize your healthy habits. You would think that if healthy habits are easy, that you would always make them a priority, but sometimes they have to be repositioned. The example would be if you get laid off or find a new job, or if you have a newborn, you're starting a family, you're getting married, you're moving, if a parent becomes ill. Those are all reasons that you have to dedicate more time to something that wasn't there before. And when you have to dedicate more time and attention, sometimes eating healthy, which in many cases costs money, or exercising, which in many cases it'll cost you time, or meditation, which really doesn't cost time, but that would be the only thing that I say you should not be able to postpone. But some people will find it difficult to meditate, so that becomes a low priority for them. But either way, when the time comes up that you have other priorities, you can postpone your health for a short time. I have patients that do it all the time, and the typical thing is insurance. When they lose their insurance, which you don't see much anymore, but when you lose insurance, I don't see people for about a year or 2 years. They come back to me and say, oh, I lost my insurance, but I got it back again. Here I am, I'm now 20 pounds heavier. So, and that's the problem, is when you postpone health for a short amount of time, sometimes because those healthy activities and those healthy things you used to do are put on the wayside or put as second priority, you will suffer. The suffering will be higher blood pressure, a bigger waistline, higher cholesterol readings, or difficulty with sleep, problems with erectile dysfunction, worsening anxiety. All those things can happen. When they previously were controlled, they sometimes become uncontrolled. And that's a no-brainer. When you're suffering, you don't want to suffer anymore, so that person or that patient usually will get back to me sooner or later when the suffering hits a max. And when it hits a max, then it becomes priority again. That's a no-brainer. The problem I see is that, for example, in my new parents, when they postpone their health for the first couple of years of a child's life, until that child becomes a little more independent, or you can find a good babysitter, or that child goes into daycare of some sort, then you can free up your time again and get back to healthy habits. Well, the problem is if you haven't planned for it and other priorities have come up, then the postponing of health for the one reason becomes postponing for another reason, because you kind of forgot where you were, you never set your goals. When people come to see me for lifestyle change, I usually tell them to get a calendar and start planning the countdown, at least knowing and being accountable to yourself, or at least on a fridge, about end date goals. If you have a date that's set aside and you have to hit that date, it makes it a little more tangible, and it makes it a little more sustainable to keep up with your restrictions. And that's what it has to be at first. It has to be a little bit of a restriction. It has to be a little bit of, you got to carve some time and do the exercise. But after a while, especially if this is going to be sustainable, you really have to make this stuff that you do enjoyable. You have to love what you do. Steve Jobs always said you have to love what you do, because in getting to that goal of what you want to do or finding what you want to do, you're going to have to suffer. And it's going to take a lot of endurance, and if you don't love it, you're not going to make it. The same thing with the ideals about setting a lifestyle plan. Putting it into play, you set your goals. Same thing with the postponing of health. If you are going to, say, set aside the exercise, the eating properly, and the meditation, well, fine, but you always want to make sure you have an end game. Now, the date should be set, whether it's when your child is 3 years of age or when your child gets into first grade. The date should be set, that is when I return back in to see Dr. Saguil and get my checkup, or that's when I return back into going in and becoming a member at Lifetime Fitness or Planet Fitness or joining the martial arts club again. You have to have that end game, that date set in your mind or on the paper and or shared with everybody so that you keep up with it. If you don't, then you'll find that, again, diseases creep up. When you stay away from health, and we are hunter-gatherers, and we're built to move. We're built to eat vegetables. We're built to eat occasional meat or meat product. That's hunter-gatherers. And we have to enjoy others' company. That's how it has to be. So when you're stagnant in a job that's mostly 10 hours in one position, not healthy. When you're eating fast food that's not natural, not healthy. When you're stressed out and have nothing but TV and alcohol or a cigarette to unwind, not healthy. So those all are obvious things. Well, maybe not so obvious with everybody, but those are obvious things that will put you into some form of early death or disability. My objective is always to get you to live a really cool life without many medicines or surgeries up to the point of 90 years of age and contributing to everybody else's life. I have a lot of 90-year-olds that come, a lot of 80-year-olds, and I should say a handful of 90-year-olds that come to my clinic. And they drive in and they drive out, they pick up their prescriptions, they're great. And it's nice to see versus, being decrepit at 60. And I do have those patients. I've got a couple patients that, in fact, I have somebody I have to call today. I left a message, but unfortunately he's 39 years old and I have to tell him he has cancer. And that's not going to be a message, that's not a message I like to deliver. And perhaps it could have been preventable, but hopefully we'll get through it together. But and that's, again, the reason why I really embrace not postponing health too long. So as best as possible, if you are one of those individuals that is watching this video and you're kind of, well, haven't seen anybody in a while, or I'm healthy, I don't need to be checked, I will guarantee you that if you come to see me or any of my integrative medicine primary care docs, we'll usually be able to find a hole in your plan. I mean, it's very rare that I or my partners will find, I'm talking about the other graduates from the Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine, we think outside the box and we have extra training to look for other things that might interfere with us getting to 90 years of age and being what I told you. So you would think that all doctors do that, but I think we have a little better handle on it. So if nobody has picked apart your brain or your history, then I challenge you to get into your doctor, and usually one of us can find something that might have to be tidied up. If not, hey, cool, that's fine. At least you've been told you have a good bill of health. Let's see you next year. And that's the way Western medicine works. We see you every year or at intervals to find when the disease process starts and then hammer it with a pill, a prescription of some sort to take care of the disease manifestations. And that's disease management. And I think Western medicine is very good at that. Sometimes we'll use pills to decrease the chances of advancing to further disease, but hey, if I can get you on a Mediterranean diet instead of putting you on a statin, which statistically helps more, then why not do that first? If I can get you moving with a walking program, not necessarily a high impact exercise routine, and have you lower your blood pressure, why not do that before the pill? And these are all things you do beforehand, and that's what I'm talking about as far as living a very healthy life. Watching your weight, living a healthy life, having good sleep, having good sex, eating properly, it's all part of beating the disease. If you don't do that, then you can postpone your healthy living for a while. But again, the bottom line without beating this up too much is always have an end game and an end date to when you're going to be able to return back into healthy life if you have to postpone this thing. And if you are in question and you think you feel good, well, the challenge is there. If you have insurance or don't have insurance, even if you think you feel good and you haven't had a checkup in more than a year, get it and see what your doctor says. If your doctor says you're cool, but you notice your waistline is, you can't see past your waistline, or your weight is higher than a BMI of 30, maybe your doctor's not paying attention or looking at the fine details and you see one of us. But either way, get in there for a checkup. Make sure one of us follows you, and don't feel bad. If you have to postpone health and you do have medical diseases, that's fine, but take the prescription pills. I keep on putting them down, but take the prescription pills for a short time, deal with the side effects, but still have an end game to eventually get to the point where we stop the prescription pills or work back in that magical food that you're supposed to be eating, the magical activity you're supposed to be doing, or the magical 10 minutes of relaxation and meditation twice a day that Deepak teaches us, and live to 90.